Hi, everybody. My name is Nanika Edwards. I'm a poet, author, artist, educator, and linguist from Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean. And some of you, especially if you're Trinidadian and you don't know much about me, you may be wondering about my accent. I was born in Canada, but I came to Trinidad. My family moved to Trinidad when I was 3 years old. So I grew up here, but I never completely lost my accent. So what you're hearing is not a freshwater Yankee accent, and I certainly hope it doesn't sound like that. but I do have a bit of a Canadian accent, if that's what you were wondering. No, I'm not from Barbados. No, I'm not from a small island. My apologies to our neighbors to the north for saying that. I know you don't like that. But yes, it's a mix of a Canadian and a Trinidadian accent. That's what you're hearing. Anyway, I'm coming with my strategy number 4 for how I make sure that I'm mentally well balanced and so on. Because as an artist, I think that I just rocked the table. Sorry about that. I think most artists would probably have some mental health challenge, and I think really it's just part of the territory. I know I have had challenges that I thankfully have been able to manage very successfully through the grace of God and the strategies that I've learned from the Bible and just from all kinds of different, in different ways, right? And I'm not going to really get into the Bible-based ones in this series, but I'm just sharing some general things that I do that definitely help me to make sure that I'm stable. So I think this is tip number, what is this? Tip number 5, okay, or strategy number 5. One of the things that I do is that I educate myself about self-care with respect to, especially with respect to psychology and emotional intelligence and that kind of thing. So, if I start with emotional intelligence, I would say that the emotional intelligence has, I would say, 4 basic prongs. One that I added myself because I think it's important, but it tends to be either not acknowledged and definitely not considered as something important, I think, by most people, especially if people don't know God. So the first thing is emotional intelligence is defined by the extent to which we know God and understand his way of thinking. I would say that's the first thing. The second thing is knowing ourselves and understanding ourselves. The third thing would be understanding others, feeling empathy for being able to put ourselves in somebody else's shoes. That would be number 3. And number 4 in my book would be, it's one that's generally considered important in emotional intelligence, is managing conflict, right? Now, I'm not going to get too much into emotional intelligence here, but if somebody is challenged in this area, chances are they're going to have issues with confidence, self-esteem, and things like that, right? Knowing ourselves, understanding our emotions, which is what emotional intelligence, a big part of emotional intelligence is just that, right? Understanding our emotions. And the thing is, some people understand their emotions better than others. Some of us are more in tune with our own emotions than others, okay? There could be all kinds of different reasons for that. But suffice it to say that for me, emotional intelligence is something I'm very passionate about. And you cannot separate emotional intelligence from education or self-education, either formal education, some type of class, whether it's in a university setting or whether it's less formal, or self-education through, going online and reading stuff or buying books or whatever, or seeking out people to chat with. those things are very important for mastering emotional intelligence. So I most of this, I have to say, I do on YouTube. I follow a lot of psychology related channels on YouTube. One in particular I think I started with was Dr. Ramani, who is a narcissist specialist. You may want to check her out. Ramani, I think that's how she spells her name. Ramani, Dr. Ramani, who is a narcissism specialist. Narcissism is a word that has become a buzzword, not just in the world of psychology and psychiatry, but I think it's spilled over into the wider society. So now everybody's talking about narcissism. And of course, when President Trump was in power, you know, I think he kind of accelerated the discussion or reignited discussions about narcissism for obvious reasons, right? So yes. So educating myself is important. I think, you know what we say, knowledge is power. To be forewarned is to be forearmed, you know, and the thing is, psychology, I don't know if it's considered a science, but certainly understanding the brain and how it functions, you know, the scientific basis for understanding that, I guess that's science. And I would like to think a lot of that feeds into psychology and so on. But certainly there is a great deal of value and knowledge that we can extract from information that is available freely available online about mental health issues, whether it's mental illnesses or how to self-care and that kind of thing. So now I don't know if you can go to my YouTube channels to see who I'm following. I'm not sure if that's possible on YouTube. I think to some extent it might be. I don't know, but if you check out my page, you might be able to see who I'm following. I have no problem with people doing that. If you know me, I would love to know if you're doing that, though. Please don't do it secretly and in private and not tell me. It would be nice to know. So my YouTube channels are, the first one is in my name, Nanika Edwards. Nanika Edwards, capital N, capital E. That channel is for kids, okay? And then I have another channel which is for teens and adults. It's called Big People Talk. And I don't know, you might be able to see some of the pages that I'm following if you check out those pages. And you can also find valuable information about emotional intelligence, critical thinking on those pages, especially Big People Talk. And yeah, I would recommend that you check them out if you're interested in that, especially if you are a believer or interested in the Christian perspective of things. I would definitely encourage you to check out my channels. So that's it. One of the ways I deal with mental health is to educate myself. I mean, I don't think a week goes by that I don't look at something on YouTube, at least one thing that educates me. And when you do that every week for years upon years, I promise you the knowledge builds up, right? And, you know, there is a lot of ignorance around mental health, right? There's a lot of ignorance around mental well-being, around mental illness and things like that. So the only way to counteract that is with concrete knowledge, with credible information. So I educate myself. And so yeah, that's what I would encourage you to do. Go do your research. You know, sometimes I go on Google, look up things I'm not sure about that I'm interested in. But a lot, like I said, a lot that I find is on YouTube. So that's it. Oh, by the way, one really good channel that I follow on YouTube, apart from Dr. Ramani, what is it called? Is it WebMD? Is it WebMD? Is that what it's called? Med Circle? Is it Med Circle? It's either WebMD or Med Circle. something like that. Of course, let me check and make sure I'm not saying the wrong thing here, because it wouldn't be nice if I'm doing that. I'm going to check here and see what it's called. Is it, why do I feel it's Med Circle? I kind of feel it's Med Circle. They're really good. Hosted by a guy who is not a professional therapist. Yes, it's Med Circle. Med Circle. All one word, capital M, capital C. And I've gotten a lot of valuable information from them as well. And sometimes they interview Dr. Ramani there. She's a pretty sought after specialist in psychology circles. So yeah, so that's another one that I would recommend. But I follow many others, right? I mean, it's always good to have a balance. Some of the people that I follow are Christian therapists. Some of them are secular, and I get value from both sides, right? So I would recommend that you look around. And if you've never done this before and you think it's not important, I would try to convince you otherwise. Think about it like this. The only time we don't think is when we're sleeping. And even when we're sleeping, we're dreaming, we're thinking, maybe unconsciously, but we're still thinking, right? But our waking moments, most times, a moment doesn't go by that we're not thinking, unless we're very mindless people, right? So it's so important to understand how to manage our thought life, our inner world, which is composed a lot of the times of what we think. A lot of what we think impacts how we feel, right? And so if you don't think it's important to understand how to manage how you think, I got to tell you, you got to think again. You got to think again, right? Because if we're not thinking about how we think, or if we don't know how to think about what we think, that could end up spilling over into our feelings, how we feel about ourselves. That could then spill over into our relationships with other people. That could then spill over into how our life is impacted, opportunities that come or may not come our way. So yeah, managing our thought life is a big part of mental well-being. And you cannot do that out of an ignorant space or a vacuous emptiness in our head concerning that area of human life, right? So so I would encourage you, educate yourself. Okay, so that's it.